We're now going to look at lists, and in the first line of my example code here I'm defining a list of 5 integers. Now in Elan, every member of the list has to be of the same type. In this case the type is integers. The type might be float, it might be string, it might be another kind of list, it might be a type that you've defined as a class, but they must all be of the same type, and that's determined if you define a literal list like this by the first element, so that if I was to change that last element to 91.5, that will parse all right, but as soon as I finish with the field and it tries to compile, I get a compile error. Incompatible types float to int. You can't put a float into a list that has already been determined to be a list of ints. Now we call this type an array list because it acts both like a traditional array in old-time programming, and also with the capabilities of a list. And indeed, most modern languages now combine the role of array and a list. So we can print the list out, we can print its length, we can get a particular member 3. Remember that the indexes start from 0, so this will be member 3. And we can also print out ranges of elements by index, but remember that in a range the upper bound, the second number, is exclusive. We can also set any element, any existing element, to a new value, and that new value has to be of the same type as the list. But what makes this like a list as well as an array is that it's a dynamic data structure. We can simply add a value onto the array list and it will expand. Print that out. In fact, let's run this and we can marry them up. So there's the original array list, li. 5 is the length, the number of elements. 4 is element number 3, and so on. And if we want to set up a new empty list, array list, which we can add things to, we can't just create open, close square brackets. That doesn't parse. There must be numbers in the literal definition. So if we want to create an empty one, we need to say empty, then the square braces, and then the type that we want the string to be. Otherwise, the reason you can't just have open, close square brackets is that it doesn't know what type to create the list to be. And finally, what makes it more like an array, as well as being able to index items, is that you can set up an empty array list with a fixed number of items. Although you could still add on the end of it, what I mean by fixed there is that they already exist. So you can see here when I've said set or define a variable L3 set to a new array list of type float with 100 elements, you can see over here that it has created the list with 100 elements, but each element is the default value, the empty value for the type of the array, and the default of a float is 0.